Hi, everybody. Welcome to weekend 2 of the Framework Festival. This is our first festival event featuring, I think we have over 25 speakers presenting from last weekend to this weekend. It's an incredible lineup for you this weekend, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Co-hosting with me today is Soren West. He is one of our co-founders. One of my favorite co-conspirators in professionally, and someone I've really enjoyed working with over the last, I'm not going to say how many years. Soren, welcome to the festival.
Thanks, Laura. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here.
I'm looking forward to hearing what we have lined up today. You know, I come at this slightly different than most of our audience and most of our uh, community in that I am a producer who knows just enough about these case studies to be dangerous. But I feel a responsibility to learn from you all about the problems that you're solving every day. And use those learnings to become a better producer, a better client, um, and a better creator for our clients. So I'm excited to learn today.
And I love having that perspective on this because the festival event is really about sharing within the community and about our partners in production that we work with, so we all have better awareness of how we do this work and to do it better. So with that, I do want to start and jump right into our first session, but there is a little housekeeping I need to do just to welcome everyone in and explain our environment, our Hopin platform. You are watching us live in the stage area. There is a sessions area, which is live, which is our video chat environment. So we'll talk about that at the end of the festival day. We are hosting our question and answer on Discord. So if you haven't joined us over at Discord yet, we're going to throw up a QR code if you're watching on your computer and can log into Discord on your phone. You can grab this image here and it'll take you right to the Discord server where you can join us there. There is a area of channels related to the festival, and you will see our Q&A session, our Q&A area where you can ask questions of our speakers. Let's look a quick look at the lineup for today. We have 6 speakers today, all with incredible sessions. I think there's some fantastic information and sharing to bring to the community. I know some of these faces will be familiar, some of them will be new, but it'll all be fascinating, and I think the community will really enjoy. Last, I have to mention our tip jar. We are a volunteer-driven event. The Framework team, we all donate our time, including the people supporting us in bringing you this festival. So the speakers, our backstage team at Uru Connects, people who've been helping me with graphics and promos, this is all volunteer, but we can't escape the hard costs of hosting this event and our internet costs. So if you can contribute, great. We'd love to have a few dollars. If you can't, not a problem, but we do have this tip jar, and I will mention it a couple more times. So with that, I want to jump right in. I've taken enough of Vello Virkhaus's time. He's going to be talking to us about Infected Mushroom, XR Music Show. Let's bring in Vello. Hello.
Hello. Hi, good morning.
Welcome. We're excited to have you here.
This is my first virtual presentation like this. This year brought about this is a new development. I realized I would normally be really nervous backstage, cowering someplace or trying to sneak in a shot of tequila before I went on. And I realized I'm looking at just a couple small boxes here, and that it really focuses on what's going on in your mind. Like, there's no tequila necessary. I have a cup of coffee. This is amazing. I'm just sitting here. So hi,
wow.
thank you.
I have tequila.
See, someone has tequila. I'm finished my coffee, but we've taken up a little of your time, so please feel free to take 20 minutes. I know presenting has its challenges compared to what you're actually presenting about, which looks hugely complex. So hopefully this will be an easy ride for you.
Easy, smooth sailing. Well,
all right, we'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, guys. Well, here we are. This is this project was a seminal one for us this year, kind of shifting into extended reality and more experimentation with virtual media. And I wanted to put together the story of it because it's been such a wild year on how we ended up actually producing this show. So we were working on a nightclub environment design last year in China, right when COVID started hitting. And we started exploring these kinetic moving shapes and, dimensional forms, and a story about the past and the future, and looking at this expansive, giant concrete venue and what could we do to it, which, we looked at kind of different lighting and ceiling pieces, and we were really deeply involved in this creative development process on a whirlwind tour through China, looking at different nightclub designs and getting ready to design several different nightclubs, and looking at a large number of different entertainment properties in country. We went to Nanning and Chengdu and Liuzhou, and it was a wild time, including some bug eating and other kinds of wild activities, looking at these kind of kinetic shapes and forms. And we were having a really kind of a nice time with this experience, building these story and scenic concepts and having fun creating these and coming up with kind of moving kinetic ideas. And I guess the point where I'm sharing all of this sketches is that these became the things that we wanted to do, last year, that became impossible to do due to China being kind of the first one to close down. So I think a lot of the things we wanted to do kind of in this design led us into kind of working in Unreal Engine and much further, and led us into this whole collaboration that ensued with this Infected Mushroom live show we put together. So here we are kind of looking at these, kinetic winch shapes and how to move objects up and down, or create performance cubes that could open that people could come out of, and create complex transforming shapes, that can flow around and reveal through the floor and rise up to the ceiling like a floating DJ platform. And we got really inspired by this cool Swedish House Mafia design where they looked like they were floating over the stage, and wanted to kind of do our own take on that with layering transparent screens and using transparent LED and media in cool ways with projection mapping. So it was all very kind of ambitious project that ended up going absolutely nowhere. So we, as we were looking at it, there's so many beautiful kinetic pieces like these void sculptures and installations. We also wanted to explore like what we could do, or do some quick sketches, what might be an interesting take on a kinetic centerpiece. So this kind of collection of ideas started assembling here in this design story, and these early sketches of things we were really kind of inspired by and had wanted to do or look at or explore, because of the scale of the kind of room we were going to be able to work in, which just had so much space to kind of move things in and move things out and transform. So we wanted to create a show that basically started in the past and then went into the future through these different technologies. So maybe the kinetic concept was just kind of a look at the story, and these inspired later things from Infected Mushroom. So we're looking at all kinds of fun set pieces and things and kind of pinnacles, and getting inspired by cool folks and mechanical equipment ideas, and these giant melting metal smelters, and just kind of weird stuff that we thought was cool. Looking at some kind of colors and what to do. And so this led us to, okay, this is China's lockdown on COVID, and that's, kind of everything changed. And our world wasn't quite changing yet here, but we were soon to experience the wrath of COVID here. And we started exploring, hey, what if we take this, space we made and make a virtual performance space in, Unreal Engine? Can we move it in? what do we do? And this was a fascinating turn of events for us, because we were looking at how, using programs like MA3D for lighting on the lighting side to kind of look at your beams and look at things, and bringing it into this environment. We started learning so many new things about what was being created in virtual production with so many advancements in virtual lighting. So we kept rolling with it here and started sketching and, working further in Unreal. And then COVID kind of halted everything here for us and kind of everyone in March, right? So we decided we would start producing this as our first demo world in the Unreal Engine, and going towards doing some proper extended reality. So started looking at ideas for like a virtual DJ booth and layered, more fantastic lighting, and how to kind of break it out and even open the space up more and learn about how things are orientated differently. So there was quite it was an interesting education process to go from a kind of audience face the front view to the, wanting to have the view kind of behind talent in a different way, and how things are orientated and how you can move around. And so we had a lot of fun sketching that and working on, the idea of our virtual DJ booth. As we wanted to, utilize several different technologies concurrently, we wanted to be able to have something kind of integrating more smoothly the virtual world backplate environment and the front plate environment. So we decided to use Notch to create this whole virtual booth that had interactive particles and kind of DMX lighting in it. And so these are just some of our first tests in Unreal Engine, just kind of looking at, learning more and shifting into this and building this. We hadn't started putting it into Notch here, but we were realizing, wait, we can run this in front and run this in back and layer things together and have other effects around that. So it started the gears started turning a bit more here on these early explorations. So another idea that we led into for the space that came from this kinetic forms we were so interested in nightclub design was the idea of these kinetic floor piece shapes that we call the stacks. And it's really the idea of creating this modular unit, and which we'll see later. And there's a kind of interesting architectural depth still there. And getting inspiration from these architectural structures, and seeing a lot of these sci-fi movies where we talk about how we're stacking people and stacking buildings together and, packing in all of this density and doing some cool transformations with this kind of, almost like a software system, if you will, or a stack of disks, or, an object, like a kinetic moving thing in this orderly quantity. So this was our look into this floor. And then we realized, well, how do we bring this stadium to life? There's no audience, right? This whole virtual show thing is kind of fascinating. And we were looking at different things people were doing, creating these virtual environments, some with hopping virtual crowds jumping up and down, some with series of people on Zoom calls and whatnot. So that was something we wondered about right from the beginning, is what kind of energy is there? What's, what are we looking at? What's this, how big can it be? Well, it could be as big as you want within technical limitations. So we're exploring the stadium. We wanted to create a space to, that felt expansive, that you could move around in and perform, and that had some energy like a stadium, but without an audience. So in that kind of regard, we made it so that in XR, you could do what we call the virtual tour mode. And this is something that a lot of different people, and Berto and Maura really helped me conceptually think about this in a great way, was making it so that in this expansive space, even though we're physically limited by the scale of our camera, to be able to move the talent and kind of keep them on this platform and tour them around this world in really cool ways, in ways that you could never do, like the camera, basically flying upside down where they're still standing, or kind of wild motions. And And it was just really necessitated by the scale of what we were working with, and streaming this into the Disguise system. So this kind of shows the blueprint methodology here, and we set it up so that we could use key commands and kind of just trigger these things live, because one of the big goals of this environment we made was we wanted to really perform everything live like we would at a real concert, at a real stadium show. So live lighting, live video, live pyro, live, live cameras moving around, and achieve that in Unreal. I realized something funny about my presentation. Every page number says 21. Somebody has probably said something about that. So this was this blueprint network we created for the stack system that basically shows some shots of them and shows some of the methodology we created for triggering events, like for this pyro and flames and smoke and this kind of throttle ray effect and some sparks that shot out. So it's quite a technical programming undertaking to create all these particle events and distribute them and run them kind of spatially in that sculpture. So I'm leading up to, we've created this stacks, and oh, my battery is running low. You guys, this is so terrible. Let me plug my computer in here. There you go. That should be better. Hey, page 21 and battery not plugged in. That's what happens when you try to put a presentation together like this in the middle of a giant shoot where we're reviewing 3 worlds in Unreal Engine right as soon as I finish. So the stacks and the effects. So we went into creating these kind of particle effects that could emit from the surfaces of the stack and from kind of nozzles built in underneath these floating holographic screens, and decided that we wanted to kind of pixel map everything involved in it as well, and kind of up the ante on the effects we wanted to create. So these are the kind of cascade systems that were developed, showing some of the particle workflow and some of the look that it had. And then I just included some stills to show some samples of what it looks like triggering this array out spatially once we created this 6x6 formation, and how it was really neat to be able to create all these different patterns in the lighting console and control these virtual elements. So there the stacks are, and then you can see these kind of floating screens and interesting objects that we mapped, and also virtual lighting. And here's a kind of a wide shot of our stadium view, where you can't really see the talent because we created 2 methods, like one with the talent in it and one that was just a cinematic world that was kind of untethered from where the talent was on the virtual stage. And yeah, this is kind of looking at the stacks underneath them and some of the mapping and little effects that are happening. This is this kind of throttle effect we created that would shoot down into the depths of space, and you can see some of the pyro exploding there. And just a few more stills. We had a lot of fun mapping this as well, so some cinematics, some stills. There's the DJ platform. If you were standing there, that's where you would be performing from, kind of in our world. So here we go. Here's kind of some pixel mapping. This is, we designed the world so that we could map it and then create strips like this to use in the architecture in different ways, however you saw fit. Like this textured strip here could be mapped around long pieces in the little headers of the stadium. These pieces here were mapped to the stairs, because that was one of the ways that we decided we could create energy in the stadium, was to put, make the seating like tiers of light, or built with these colors of content and keep it moving. And then we had a little pixel map for the nozzles that were the effectors for the thrusters, and then the floor platform and the DJ booth, and then a DJ booth floors, and then a huge screen in the back of the world. So it was a lot of fun, and we kind of built the control for this in Resolume so we could perform it live, and had it set up to have the different layers going to all the different scenic elements, so you could step through looks and be able to improvise. So we took our kind of music festival busking, art show file and adapted it to this so that we could flow through an electronic music set and improvise set live in this virtual environment. And this shows kind of our output map that we were working with and how we were able to kind of pack it down into 4K and send it as a texture into Unreal Engine to all the UV regions on the objects. And then kind of what we did in the stadium, where you can see the kind of, we had a different layers of screens. We had these floating hollow screens that you could turn off and on that would appear over the seating. And then you could hide those and then reveal the seating. So again, more options, things that we were exploring, looking at some virtual program monitors so you can have a virtual view in there and see what's happening. And then showing this kind of curved back screen, large screen that we could turn off and on and have cool visuals behind. And then kind of capabilities here. Look what you can do with video. It's interesting. You can create all this energy on the seating. It's becoming alive. That's what we thought was we were achieving something with the lighting and video to bring some energy back. And it can get quite kinetic and wild, like with those emissive textures in Unreal and glowing and a lot of interesting things. That's showing our kind of hollow screens around the stadium surround and showing these kind of twisting tube elements that were also mapped with video. And back to our booth, we were looking at the floor and some early renders of, again, exploration. And that leads us, now we've finally got our Notch booth. And this was the first time we looked at our two worlds together, putting Notch and Unreal in disguise and layering them like this. So there's our Notch render outputs, looking at, what the booth was turning into. And then here's some samples of the booth with the DMX lighting fixtures and the pixel map on the front of it and merged into the world there, showing kind of capabilities and the way you can explore using it. So, because I know I'm cruising along here on time-wise, this is something that got cut that we were developing that someday we'll get back to when virtual XR can handle more data. This is what we'd call the Beast. Mike Robertson built this, and this was a character that was being created to kind of come into the world and appear from the sky and chase after the booth and kind of chase, be an ominous creature leaning in overhead, kind of a fantasy creature that could move in and out, that was kinetically animated, that unfortunately had to be cut due to the fact that we are at the limits of what you can do with virtual production, I think, running almost 11 universes of virtual lighting. So the technology couldn't go any further. And here's a little BTS cut of the piece. This is building our studio and going into our first project. Kind of putting it all in with our partners here and going into shooting. So yeah, lots of little gizmos, lots of different tools working together, communicating. There's our pyro. Well, there's that. Page 21 has so much information on it, you guys. I put this little teaser in, but we don't have to look at that. And it's it just shows another view. This was really the first thing we made where we started kinetically transforming the stacks and integrating more complex particles and effects. Yeah, so we can look at a quick flash through on the beast here and wrap things up. So this is big thanks to all our partners and everyone who really put their passion and love into this, and thanks to Infected Mushroom and Ofer Zamora for dedicating countless hours of sleepless nights with me, and Mike Robertson and everyone who, you know, worked on this. Big shouts out to our team here, and thank you guys for having me. Hope that page 21 was entertaining. So
yeah,
I think
really fantastic, Vello. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Vello, I have a question from your presentation, page 21. You know, one of the things that this moment in time has, I think, given to us as creators is a lot of the constraints that we're accustomed to living with are gone. Things like gravity or the size of a stage door, you know, the weight capacity of the rig, all the, you know, a lot of these things are not an issue in this type of practice. You mentioned coming up against the technology with the 11 universes of lighting. I'd love to hear more about some of the constraints that this practice introduces, particularly around timing and latency, and you know, what's the bottleneck, or what's the weakest link in the chain that presents new constraints?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Disguise and Unreal and the kind of advent of, you know, quick advancement into virtual production, that there's really a lot of beta and experimental software out there, as well as what David's doing with Carbon, and what is also happening within Unreal from the Geodesic Games team, where you're pushing the limits of data pipelines going into, you know, if you want to call it like sockets, like delivering information in and out of these different tools, and the processing factors involved. So there's definitely very real latency that you've got to deal with, kind of in synchronizing your recordings, both on the time code side and just frame processing to marry things back together in the output. And then there's, you know, very real limitations on the amount of kind of geometry and data that can exist together in real time. So I think we're at the beginning of a new push into, you know, I was having a moment where I was thinking back to when I first started doing computer graphics. What was it, like the Symbolics machine or something, where, you know, 10, 15 hours you could render a sphere, and then you'd store the sequence that took weeks to render on your Abacus 66 standard def disc recorder that held, you know, 30 seconds and cost $1 million or whatever that giant refrigerator side standard desk recorder was in, you know, SD. And now just even thinking what we've done, it's it's moved so fast, and it's kind of like, okay, you have no limitations, but but there are limitations, and it's developing. And I think next year, as everyone keeps improving their, you know, Disguise and Unreal moving along, things are just going to get more and more exciting on this.
Let's try and get one attendee question in real quick from Jeremy Mayo in Cincinnati. What sort of GPU hardware did you use to drive your Unreal scene? It looks like serious firepower.
Well, the Disguise pipeline is built on Quadro cards, so it's a Quadro 6000.
And your Unreal computers, did you have external ones, or everything was driven within Disguise?
We're all Quadro except where we're using RTX 2080s or now the new series, but primarily Quadro, because we need to keep, we're, you know, that's right now. We're working on what's supported in our disguise system. So we're not, we're not trying to develop on 3090s and then push it back to a lower card right now. So we're in the Quadro 6000 world.
Fantastic. Well, I think that brings us to your session time. Thank you so much. This is really great to see this thing evolve as you're learning all this technology and putting it right to use. So it's really incredible to see. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Vello.
guys. Bye-bye. Have a great day.